So not too long ago, my Boy Scout troop had the opportunity to take our second overnight camping trip in the Okefenokee swamp, where we canoed out to this time we canoed out to a floating platform in the middle of the swamp, spent the night there, and paddled around the swamp for a little while. So in this video, we're going to talk about a couple of things, basically just the kind of basics of canoe camping in general if you're going out into a watery environment like a swamp, and based on my experience. And we're going to talk about specifically what I took on the trip with me this time and why I took it and what worked, and a couple of things that maybe didn't work so well. So maybe if you're planning on doing a trip like that, this video will help you. That's what's coming up next here on Survival on Purpose. Welcome back to Survival on Purpose, your home for information and gear reviews related to camping, survival, and general preparedness for regular folks. My name is Brian. Thanks for joining me. So like I said, a couple of weeks ago, my Boy Scout troop had the opportunity to go overnight canoe camping in the Okefenokee swamp in South Georgia, which, if you're not aware, is the largest freshwater swamp in North America. Pretty cool. So I get a lot of comments when I talk about trips, you know, to talk about what I take, what I took, and what kind of stuff I use. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to kind of go over that. As I said, this was our second trip in the Okefenokee within about 3 years. The first time we canoed out about 2 miles to an island to spend the night on an island. This time was way different. We actually canoed out into the middle of the swamp. There wasn't really any dry land in sight, and we camped on this floating platform in the middle of the swamp, which was pretty cool. So I've got a couple of notes here just to keep me straight. I tried to make this video before, and it wound up being about 30 minutes long, and that's just more than you want to watch and I want to edit. So we're going to try to condense this down a little bit. So basically, I've got two main goals for this video. I want to cover those pretty quickly. I want to talk about the basics of canoe camping based on my experience. I've been on a couple of canoe campouts now in the middle of nowhere, and a week-long kayak trip to the Outer Banks. So three kind of overnight watercraft type trips where you paddle them yourself. Talk about just the basics and about that, and kind of the basic things I took along for that. And then we'll talk about specifically what I took for this camp out and why I chose it. I'm going to go over the gear, tell you a couple things that worked really well and a couple things that maybe didn't work so hot, and then we'll wrap this thing up. So I'm going to start though with just a quick I want to give a big shout out and a thumbs up to the folks at Okefenokee Pastimes, which is a campground located right outside the eastern end of the Okefenokee swamp. So real quick, just a little short ramble, and then we'll get to the actual video content. So it's a 5-hour ride down to the Okefenokee swamp area from where we live near Atlanta. So we went down on a Friday, left about 1 o'clock, because some guys, we had stuff to do in the morning, right, for our income producing activities like JOBs and businesses. And so we had to find a place to camp overnight outside the I guess it's the United States Wildlife Area or whatever it is. But the swamp itself is federal. So anyway, we went up camping in a place right outside the eastern end called the Okefenokee Pastimes. Just a really nice bunch of folks down there, and I just got to give them a shout out because it's probably one of the nicest private campgrounds I've ever stayed at. The folks there that run it are really, really nice. They had a nice flat level campground. They have very, very nice bathhouses, and well, I guess what really struck me is, without getting too graphic about it, let's just say they obviously don't buy the cheapest toilet paper they can buy. It was just, everything was really clean in the bathrooms, and the toilet paper was soft. Anyway, shout out to the folks at Okefenokee Pastimes. They didn't pay me or anything for this. I paid for the camping, the whole 9 yards. I like to give credit where credit is due, and those folks down there do a really great job. Okay, we're going to get to the actual content of the video now. We're going to talk about, first of all, some basics about canoe or kayak camping based on my experience, which is reasonably limited. I've had three overnight trips so far, one of them for a week, and then we'll talk about the specific stuff I use. So first of all, I guess the best thing to do is talk about clothing. Even though it was the middle of March, not really hot, the sun was still out, and you can still get sunburned. I think it's a really good idea when you're out on the water. Even in the swamp, there's a lot of open areas where there's not a lot of trees, so no sun protection from the environment. It's a good idea to have a hat. This hat you've seen before in the video is the Tilly Airflow 6, I think it is, but very, very good hat, especially for water. It floats. It's you can crinkle it up, you can wash it. It's a really, really good hat. Lifetime guarantee on this sucker too, by the way. And then I like to have a good watch. This is a Casio, about a $35 watch. Nothing expensive. It's a solar powered. And then I've got on the band You can see this. My friend Yanni from Finland sent me this. It's a Suunto watch band compass, and it's got a rotatable bezel and everything. It actually works really well. I tested it against a larger compass, which mine's a Suunto MC2. I like Suunto compasses, and it just works. So just kind of good to keep yourself oriented. I want to wear comfortable, you want to wear comfortable clothes. I was actually wearing a short sleeve shirt down there because it was a little warmer. Let me just pan you down here a little bit, kind of show you. So I was wearing these pants, which are my 24/7 Ascents from True Spec. They're kind of stretchy, very comfortable, and I just like them a lot. They're really good for that kind of stuff. I wasn't wearing shorts because I just want to protect my legs from the mosquitoes and the sun. Actually wearing wool socks. These are my Darn Tough socks. These are the ones I was wearing. And then I'm wearing these old New Balance tennis shoes. And then for a belt, I was wearing my click belt with a D-ring on it, just because I like to wear that camping for no good reason other than I think it's a good belt, and it's very comfortable and very strong. And then I have like this little carabiner clip through the loop on the pants there, so that I could tie my Victorinox one-hand tracker to the carabiner here, put it in my pocket, just in case it fell out and went over the canoe or whatever. It would be, I would still have it. So there's that. And I guess the only other thing you could call it wearing it, I was wearing a whistle. This happened to be the one I took with me this time, just because it's big and orange, I could see it. I think it's always a good idea to have a whistle with you anytime you're in the woods. It's just a good way to get people's attention, just in case. So that's all the I guess the personal clothing I was wearing. Oh, one more thing I had in my pocket, which I always have in my pocket somewhere. It's just a tourniquet. This is a soft T tourniquet, I believe. It's always good to have a tourniquet, and you know, probably the #1 thing you could do to save somebody's life is to apply a tourniquet, just in case of a, I don't know, bad gator bite maybe. but none of that happened, thankfully. And then I had my iPhone / camera in the pocket, and that's what I like about these True Spec pants. It's got that cargo pocket on it. Even though I got a life-proof case, this thing won't float, so I kept it pretty secure there. So that's everything pretty much I was wearing. Oh, also on my person, I was wearing, I'll just put it on and show you, the Wazoo Survival bracelet. And this is the whatever the top of the line one is. Now I've got a little sunscreen on it now, but this is without a doubt the most complete, highest quality, smallest survival kit I have ever come across in all my product reviews and survival and camping and everything else. It's not cheap. It's close to the $100 mark, but it's packed with really high quality stuff that seriously could help you in a survival situation. And I've done a video on this one. You can check it out on the channel too. I got it, tore it all apart and all that. So that's the stuff that I was wearing on my body. Also, I have to admit, be prepared is the Boy Scout motto, right? I know that. I was in a big hurry to get out of there. All week long I worked. I left my sunscreen at home. Wound up buying this bottle of sunscreen. It works. I have to give them good credit for that. I did not get sunburned, and some other people with us did get sunburned, but this was the last bottle they had in the little canoe rental shop, and this is 1 fluid ounce. The sucker was like $4.40. So it's like, I don't know, 100-something bucks a gallon, but it works. So I would recommend you make sure you pack the sunscreen yourself so you don't have to buy the $100 a gallon stuff. Okay, so that's everything I was wearing anyway. Let's take a look at the couple other things about the canoe trip itself, and then we'll get right into what I actually used on the camp out, and we'll talk about what worked and what didn't, and we'll wrap this thing up. First of all, you want to keep your stuff dry. Even though the goal in a canoe trip is to not get anything wet, you should be able to, if you're doing it right, you should be able to get in the canoe, go where you're going, do everything you need to do without a bunch of water getting in the canoe. You should be essentially dry. So, but be prepared, right? So the #1 way most people keep their stuff dry is with dry bags, and I certainly used some dry bags on the trip. Got this big one here, a couple from Expedition Research, which is a pretty good size one, as you can see. Then we had, to put our sleeping bags and stuff in. Then I've got this one, which is probably still my favorite from ever. It's the Barley, which is a TPU dry bag. It's got a lot of good features with it. If you can't find those, you can get one like this at Walmart. It works. It's just as well. It's a little stiffer, but it works. And then the old tried and true fallback, just a plastic garbage bag. This is like a contractor grade heavy duty garbage bag. We put the tents and other things that were larger in there. Just twist it real good, fold it over, and tie a knot around the folded portion of it, and that'll help keep your stuff dry. Thankfully, nobody dumped their canoe in the gator-infested swamp, so that wasn't a problem anyway. But I actually learned a pretty cool little trick the first time we went on a canoe trip from one of the other dads, and he put his gear, at least a lot of it, in a five-gallon bucket. I guess this is 5. This is maybe 6-gallon bucket. Anyway, a plastic bucket, and then you can buy these things called gamma lids, right? Gamma seals. And basically, you pull the lid off the bucket, you pop this thing on it, it's got a seal in it. And then this actually has a little O-ring around the lid. And it just makes it really easy to access your gear and put it on. What I like about this is, first of all, if you got it strapped in the canoe, and you can just use your dry bag hooked around here to one of the cross braces. Gives you a nice flat spot to sit your coffee cup right in here while you're paddling. But also when you get to camp, makes a little table for you, makes a little stool for you, and it also keeps anything that might be crushable or you don't want to get squished, so to speak. Keeps it nice and safe in there. So, and it'll float if it hits the water. So I mean, it's just got a lot of advantages. So if you're going to do any canoe camping, you might want to check that out. It's, you know, it's not as packable maybe as a dry bag. It's not going to compress into a space, but that's also one of the advantages. It won't compress and squish what you got in there. Like we had some potato chips in our food one. I had 2 of these, one for gear and one for food. Put a bag of potato chips in there, nacho cheese Doritos, and they did not get crushed, which is pretty good. So we could have sandwiches for lunch and not have potato chip crumbs or nacho, or I guess Doritos crumbs. So anyway, there's that. So, and then finally, I always think it's a good idea if you're going to spend a bunch of time paddling, sitting in a boat or canoe or a kayak, you have some kind of pad for the seat. And I actually used this one this time. It's the Climate Cush Recon. It comes in a little bag about this big, and basically you just blow it up. It's about this long. So when you blow it up, it fit right down on the canoe seat. Kind of cradled my posterior, so I did not get those I didn't get numbed rear end all day long paddling. So I'm not gonna blow this up and take the time to do that, because like I said, I'm trying to minimize the time in this video. The other thing that I'll say that is always important on any outing is even though you're surrounded by water, you need to have something to drink. And in this case, I used my BPA free Aquabot from the main water bottle there, only because I can use this to drink. If you saw the video on this not too long ago, you can also use it to clean the mud off or clean stuff off or wash or whatever. It's just a really cool water bottle. I also brought my Pathfinder stainless bottle. We'll talk about that in the camping area. So anyway, that is pretty much covers the canoe trip, the canoeing basics, you know, portion of the video, whatever stuff I used. So now let's talk real quickly about what the actual camping gear I used, which is not necessarily as canoe specific. So kind of gone selfie here because I've got a couple of these tents set up that we used that I packed them up wet, or at least from the dew. We wanted to get out of there because the mosquitoes were horrible when we got up in the morning. So I set them up, came back home, set them up, and they're still sitting out here because it's been raining most of the week and it's been really stormy here. So we'll just tell you about that, and I'll ramble a little bit as we go. So first of all, the first night I slept in this tent. This is the Outdoor Vitals Dominion 2.5. I don't have the vestibules pulled out all the way, but I did a video on this. You can see it worked really well. But as you can see, I got a little patch right here. My son was concerned that if it did rain, that being on the rain fly, that would leak, because I did not patch it till I got home. It just had a little bitty tear right here. I tore it somehow packing it up. Worked really well. I like this tent a lot. But the second night, we actually used the MSR Hubba Bubba NX, I think it is, and on the platform. It worked really well too, but it's just a little bit smaller, a little narrower. I don't know if you can tell the difference. You see how wide that one is. You can see this one's a little bit narrower on the width there. So we were pretty much snugly there together on the second night. Finally, one of the other kids used the hiking bike tent here that you've seen on the channel also. I've reviewed all 3 of these tents separately, and it worked just fine for him too. So all 3 great tents. So anyway, we got the tents, and by the way, those tents, when I first set them up, I didn't stake them down. Wasn't expecting a tornado, literally 70-mile-an-hour winds to come through. I found one of these across the across the privacy fence in the neighbor's backyard. The other one across the, so he blew over the fence. I kind of figured, oh man, these aluminum poles are going to be broke. All 3 of those tents that you just saw were beat all to pieces last week in the windstorm before I finally got around to staking them down. They're all fine, so I got to give them all a thumbs up for being pretty tough. So anyway, But so we got a tent, got somewhere to sleep in, some shelter. So you got to have a sleeping bag. Generally for me, I need a sleeping pad, a sleeping bag, and a pillow, because I usually use a hammock, to be honest with you. I use my Hennessy hammock, but nowhere to put a hammock up, or at least not enough on the platform. So here's what I did for that. First night, for a sleeping bag, I used this Battle Box, when it came in a Battle Box. This Battle Box branded, very lightweight. It's a front zip bag. I just used it honestly because it's very small and compact. I could carry it really easy without taking up a lot of room on the canoe. First time I'd ever used it, I have to say it worked really well. I like the center zipper, something I'm not used to, but it does kind of, once you zip it up, you can kind of just roll around however you want to in it. It just works. So there's that one. It's always good to know that, you know, you see the stuff in these Battle Boxes and maybe you don't know that if it's any good or not. So I thought at least it'd be worth giving you a shot and letting you know that it does work and it was good. And it was down around 40 degrees at night, and I did not get cold, so that's good. So there's that. Now let's talk about the pads. For the pads, I use this Thermarest Neo Air, which is got one of those big valves. I'm not going to open it up because it's too big and I'll take too much time, but Thermarest Neo Air right there. I did a review on this one also. It's got one of those valve things you're supposed to be able to blow into it 5 times and blow it up. Whatever, right? So anyway, I use that one. Pretty good. It's big enough and it gets comfy enough. You know, for me, sleeping on the ground is not good anyway, but this did a pretty good job. Same thing, I used this all week long on the kayak trip a couple years ago. So there's that. Now let's talk about my pillow. The pillow is what really gave me a problem. Here's the one that I normally use when I'm camping. This is a Thermarest compressible pillow. I like this a lot. It's got these big lumps of foam in it or whatever. Pretty comfortable to me. So this is what I usually use, but I wanted something a little bit smaller. So the first night in the campsite, I used this Magellan pillow, and it's just a stuffed sack pillow. It's about twice as big when it's unfolded, so pretty good there. But again, I let my son use this one. I want to go small. So here's where I screwed up. I used this X-Pillow Recon, which fits in this little bag. You see how little it is. It's about the size of my hand. And they make some great stuff. The seat cushion I used in the canoe was great. I used their X-Pillow, and here it is blown up all the way. All I can tell you is, literally, I had the absolute worst sleep I've ever had camping that night. I was sleeping on the platform. This pillow, I could not get comfortable. I couldn't get my head comfortable. I bet I woke up literally 25 times throughout the night, just messing with this thing. I'd let the air out of it part of the way and try to fold it up, because I sleep on my side usually. And anyway, I could not get it to work. This may be a great pillow for some people. For me, I don't like it. So that's something that didn't work very well for me. That takes care of the sleeping stuff. Let's talk about eating and then just chilling out, and we'll wrap this thing up, because I know I've been going way long already. We decided on this camp out just to go with backpacking style food. For breakfast, we had some bars. For lunch, I had some peanut butter sandwiches and those uncrushed Doritos, thanks to the 5-gallon bucket. And then for dinner, we had just some Mountain House chicken teriyaki, which is pretty good. To cook it, I used the Blaze stove here from the folks at Expedition Research. I don't even know if they sell this. They sent me this a while back to test and review. By the time I got the video done on it, I couldn't find it online anywhere, but basically it's just like it's very similar to a jet boil or an MSR wind burner, and just put your gas canister onto underneath here, light it, and you're good to go. Works like a champ, man. I'm telling you, it works great. And I used the old Folgers instant coffee bags, just like a tea bag, to make my coffee, and just like a blue metal cup to pour it in and drink it out of. Nothing fancy there. And then to eat the food, I had some oatmeal for the breakfast morning. I just used my Wildo Folder cup, and I really like this because it's it doesn't take up much room. It's very lightweight, gives you a big area. And then the I think this is a LMF, Light My Fire, little plastic sport. It might be a Wildo, I don't know, but. And then it just folds down like this, very small and easy to keep clean and wash. So pretty cool there. I've done a review on this stuff before too. And then in addition to the Mountain House and the oatmeal, we had some a new product I've taken a look at from some folks called Thrive Life. They have this thing called Snackies, and they're basically just freeze-dried, kind of similar to the astronaut ice cream, but it's real food. This is strawberries, and the ingredient is strawberries, and it tastes like strawberries, crunchy strawberries. We got green peas, which is probably the least favorite snack, but it's not bad. But actually the corn, people really like the corn a lot. It had apples and blueberries and a lot of other stuff. Apples was the favorite, so we checked these out, and the Boy Scouts had a good time with that. That's pretty much it. As far as the food goes. A couple of other just kind of basic things we had. You got to have some light there at night. This gave me an opportunity to check out three different headlamps we used. Got a chance to check out a couple of headlights from the folks at UCO, the Air, the Vapor, which is a cool one, and then we took a look at the Olight 816 Wave. We tested this out too. And they all work great. Another product I brought because the mosquitoes were going to be pretty bad was the Thermacell backpacker. Basically, you've seen the basic Thermacell on the channel. This one just takes it, instead of using the little small bottles of butane, this actually screws right on a isobutane container, same as you use for your stove, and it's got little pads in it, and it puts out a cloud of pyromethrin, I think it is, vapor. Anyway, it's supposed to keep the mosquitoes at bay. This thing works really good around my house. I think they have a different strain of mosquitoes in the Okefenokee because it did not seem to get rid of them. It might have cut them down, I don't know. Maybe instead of 1 million, we only had 100,000. All I know is them skeeters ain't playing down there. So there's that. That's really all the basic stuff. I did want to show you one more thing. You gotta have water, right? Even though we're surrounded by water in the swamp, you probably don't want to drink it. So I bought gallons of water. That's the simplest thing to carry in a canoe without having a bunch of water bottles rolling around. I got these specifically because they have a screw on top. I've noticed now when you try buy drinking water in gallon containers, many of them just have that little tear off strip and the pop off top. That top is not very secure, so I think this one's really good. It had a little strap here we could actually help fasten it to the canoe with, and it's got a screw on top, so that's just a good thing to have with you. Always make sure you got enough water, and make sure it has a screw on top. That's just a little something maybe you won't think about as you're grabbing water, but trust me, okay? So that's all the basics again. Real quick, we'll go over kind of just in case stuff I brought and think it's a good idea to bring, and then we will definitely wrap this thing up. As we talked about, first aid is important. I didn't bring a big first aid kit, but I do have a basic one. But this one, I've got some combat gauze and some quick clot, and I got, you know, just some antibiotic stuff and some eye drops and stuff, just personal first aid stuff. The HydroBlu drinking straw water filter, which is rock and roll good, and then a couple extra batteries. Clipped on back, I had my a tactical flashlight here and another tourniquet just in case, because you just never know. And I had all this, by the way, in a VanQuest EDC M huge maximizer pouch, which absolutely rocks. I just had the tourniquet stuffed in this Molly webbing here and had this down inside one of the 5-gallon buckets. So there's that. Since we had a group and we were surrounded by water, even though it may not be drinkable, I had the HydroBlu VersaFlow and the VersaFlow Gravity Bag, which is my favorite group camping water filter stuff now. A little bit of cordage here. You can never have too much cordage. Had a couple of emergency signal flares just in case. And then I had this signal panel from Malcolm over at Hidden Woodsman. It's just a big orange panel that you can put out to signal for help if you need to. Just, you know, I wasn't really expecting any problems, but it's always best to be prepared, right? And it just folds up. You could also use it for a little tablecloth or whatever, you know, to sit on to keep your butt dry, but or butt clean anyway. But I just kept it in there just in case for emergencies. That is pretty much it. One thing you're going to notice, you're going to say, what kind of sheath knife did you take? I have to say, like I said, I was in a hurry. When I got down there, I realized after I got out in the canoe that I didn't even have a fixed blade knife with me. All I had was this. And you know what? Honestly, since we're surrounded by water, there wasn't a lot of dry land to fool with. I really did not feel inadequate with this. This is a really good knife. I'm not going to baton any wood with it, but there's wasn't any wood to baton, so and I had everything I need to make a fire. I also had, and I can't find it now, I put it somewhere in my other stuff, a big ferro rod from the folks at Trades. And finally, one other thing that I was really glad I had, and a couple of the other dads who checked it out wished they had, was my DuraLounger camp chair. Because this thing is pretty comfy. Okay, so I got a feeling that even though I remade this video to try to cut down on the length, I'm still pretty long. I hope it's been helpful to you. I tried to do my best to give you the benefit of my, at least what little experience I have, and talk about some things that really did, you know, maybe will help you if you decide to go on a canoeing trip or a kayaking trip. I will say that really and truly, the 5-gallon bucket thing was probably, it's the first time I'd done it, and I am completely a believer that if you don't get anything else out of this video, you're going on a canoe camping trip, that is worth it. I promise you. Just get a couple of those 5-gallon buckets, and really, I really recommend the Gamma lids because they just make it a lot easier. And you can even get like orange ones from Lowe's or whatever. As long as it's got a lid that fits on it with a seal, you're good. The Gamma lids make it a lot easier. Keeps your stuff dry and stable. They float, make stools when you get to camp, or tables or whatever. Great place to sit your coffee while you're canoeing. Anyway, I hope this has been helpful. If you get a chance to go down to the Okefenokee Swamp, it is a gorgeous, beautiful, beautiful place. I'm going to try to put together a video just showing some of the footage with maybe some guitar behind it or something. It takes me a little longer to do those kind of videos for whatever reason, but I'll try to do that in the next little while. So hopefully this has been helpful to you. As always, thanks for watching Survival on Purpose. Thanks for sticking with me to the end here. I put out a brand new video every Friday and Saturday, and very often random videos throughout the week. There's another one right there. And if you're not subscribed to the channel, you can click right down there in the corner and subscribe, and I really appreciate the support. Once again, my name's Brian. You're watching Survival on Purpose. Remember, survival's not an accident, so be prepared. I'll see you next time.